Hey, good evening. It is Monday, April 8th, 2024 in the Stevens Willie Lively Boardroom of the 1887 building. And I'd like to begin the meeting tonight with saying the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Tadlock, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Andre.
Here.
Mr. Gayhart.
Here.
Mr. Gatton.
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mrs. Costa.
Here.
Mrs. Reckles.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow. He's online. We'll put excused for right now. Mr. Barkus.
Here.
And Mr. Forster.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. The meeting has been noticed for state statutes, and I did not receive any cards for community participation, so I'm going to assume that we have none for this evening. So we'll get started with the first item, or the sixth item on the agenda, for the Tibbetts Elementary student presentation.
Good evening. I am Brian Frost. I'm principal at Tibbetts Elementary. I've got some guests with me as well. This is Stephanie Lotto. She teaches fifth grade math. Liv Crane, Chloe Watson, Harper Galani, and Braylon Zimba. They are all fifth grade students at Tibbetts, and they'll be joining here shortly in the presentation. And we're going to talk a little bit about a program that's called NBA Math Hoops. Jason, if I give you the signal to change slides. So what we'd like to do, give you a quick introduction to what the program is and maybe a little longer explanation of how to play the game that goes along with the program. Ms. Lockwood's then going to explain how she used the NBA Math Hoops in her class, and it's fifth grade specifically. There was a regional competition that the girls were able to attend and compete in, so the girls are going to tell you a little bit about that. And then we'll finish off the presentation by playing a round or two with you all so you can see what it looks like. Okay. I'll read this one to you. So NBA Math Hoops, it's a program by a company called Learn Fresh. It leverages the game of basketball, specifically the NBA and WNBA brands, to build fundamental math and social emotional skills through a physical and digital basketball themed board game, a curriculum, and a community program experience. It's designed for students in grades 4 through 8. It's a free program, and it develops students' algebra readiness prior to entering high school while strengthening important skills, including self-regulation and executive function. NBA Math Hoops program is implemented in in-school, out-of-school, and home learning environments. Specifically, how we found this program, I received an email. I thought it looked intriguing. I thought it sounded like something our kids would be into. I was invited to a training in Pewaukee, which I went and attended, and basically was introduced to the game. And because I was able to attend that training, then they were going to provide us with the game boards and the ability for our kids to participate. I think there's a video on the next screen. It's about a 3-minute video. I think it does a much better job of showing you and kind of explaining what this program looks like. So in case you want to play that.
NBA Math leverages the game of basketball and NBA and WNBA players' success to engage elementary and middle school students in math and social emotional learning. Learn Fresh is excited to offer a suite of an NBA math experience for the upcoming season that allows students and educators to access the benefits of math across a variety of learning stages. The NBA Math physical board game is designed for classrooms, out-of-school time program, and at-home use. Through the board game, students draft a team of NBA and WNBA players and complete math problems using real player statistics to shoot, foul, steal, and score points, all while building fluency for math operations and key social and emotional skills. The game is supplemented by a math and SEL curriculum that builds a basketball season for any classroom or out-of-school time. The NBA Basketball digital game is designed for facilitating and independent usage by students in any learning environment with a device or internet access. The digital game replicates the mechanics of the physical board game experience in an engaging virtual environment featuring real-time NBA and WNBA player sets. The more students play the game, the more players they unlock, adding additional strategy to the team management process. The digital game is available globally as a downloadable app for Android and iOS, and as a web-based experience for educators and students in the Math Hoops program. In addition to the program, students can also access the NBA Math Hoops Skills and Drills mobile app for supplemental learning. The Skills and Drills app focuses on additional practice with core math skills and fun mini games like a 3-point contest and locker room challenge. The more students engage in the app, the more rewards they will unlock. NBA Math Hoops program sites and students are eligible to participate in community-based STEM activations, including regional tournaments and the NBA Math Hoops Global Championship, which takes place each year in New York City alongside the NBA Draft. The NBA Math Hoops Global Championship is the flagship event of the NBA Math Hoops program, bringing together select students from across the U.S. and beyond for 3 days of competition, learning, and fun. This year, educators continue to implement NBA Math Hoops in facilitated or independent learning environments, while catering to different learning styles. For more information about bringing the NBA Math Hoops experience to your community, please visit our website at www.nbamathhoops.com.
Thanks. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what it looks like. Again,
NBA Math Hoops lessons for the game of basketball.
should be the next. There should be the next one. Thanks. There are the two platforms. I think we focus most of our attention on the physical board game that you see around the table. I could be wrong. This Locke will probably speak to some of the digital pieces as well. Yeah. So how do we play? Basically, the first step is you have to draft your team. And in order to do that, you have to look through all the different players and analyze the statistics of those players. You have to pick 5 players, one from each of the different categories. They're color coded as well as by position. Once you have your team, then you're ready to play. You roll 2 dice and calculate, and that would be the sum, the difference, the product, and the quotient of the 2 dice. That determines which player you're going to be shooting with and whether it's a 2-point shot or a 3-point shot. And then you use a spinner based off of those statistics, real life statistics of the WNBA and NBA players, to decide if that shot is made or missed. So that's a very fast explanation of how to play the game. The girls will show you probably. So there's selecting our team. Like I said, color coded. You're going to pick 5 players. LeBron James is a forward. He's blue. Brittany Griner, she's the center. That would be green. Again, those statistics are laid out on there. We roll the dice. Our example 6 and 3. So we're going to have to find the sum, difference, product, quotient. So add, subtract, multiply, and divide. There is a shot clock as you get more advanced, so you have time to do so. Then the next step is you go to that board. Each half, you're either the odd half or the even half, and you find your shot. So one of those options was 9. So if we were on the odd side for this half, I might pick 9, and you can see it right in the middle of the paint there. And that 9 would be a 2-point shot. So, and it's a blue, so it might be LeBron James shooting a 2-pointer, and so that you go to LeBron's card and you put your spinner on that, and you take your shot. The girls eventually learn, that was kind of the offensive side of the game. Eventually you learn the defensive strategies as well. One of those is a miss, so there's an option that your 4 numbers end up making the game board. So it's just a miss. You can also steal, so you'll see you're gonna actually do the math. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. If there's a mistake before the shot is made, you can steal from the other team because you made a mistake on your math. The third one is fouling. You got a player that shoots really well from 3-pointers, but is not a great free throw shooter. So you get 5 fouls within the game as well. So you can call it foul. And then instead of spinning, then you're rolling dice again and looking on the grid on the cards. So those defensive strategy, miss, steal, foul. So again, taking the shot, you can see the round pie, you're gonna actually put the spinner on there. The 2-point shots are either orange or gray. The 3-point shots would be the hashed line. And if you spin and land in there, that's a make. If it's in the gray, then it's a miss. And then again, those free throws would be on the grid based on the 2 dice when you find your coordinates. So a lot of math involved. Ms. Lockwood, you want to speak about how you used it in class?
So we use this in my class. I teach all the 5th grade math activities. I used it for math rotations. If I was working with a group, with small group, I had students paired up in their teams playing games against each other. We had a league with standings, and then we had a tournament. And between league standings and sportsmanship and our behavior during that, that's how I chose the 2. I actually chose 3 teams to go, but only 2 teams were selected from the lottery to represent us at regionals. We would also use it sometimes if we finished. I would plan if I knew we were finished a little early. Game actually takes about 20 minutes to complete. I also sometimes will put it in if we have, upcoming, we have a lot of forward testing happening. So to keep things a little lighter during math class, just something they really do look forward to it and enjoy it. So I use it in all these scenarios. There are SEL components to every lesson as well, or to the game as well. So in different parts, they'll have lessons on. The most recent one we did was compromise. We had a trade deadline, which I forced all of them to trade a player. And we had some teams that didn't want to trade anyone. So we did a mini lesson on compromise and what that means, what that looks like out at home, what that can look like in school, and what that looks like in this game. And so that was interesting. They got to pick one player that was off the table. The other team got to pick one player off the table, but then everyone else, they had to come to an agreement. We also had free agency. They could trade out players. So it was really interesting because as we got deeper into it, I think, at the beginning, they all just picked players based on names. They all wanted Giannis, they all wanted LeBron. When we did the free agency and the trade deadline, which was more recently, the students were actually looking at the statistics and they were comparing the percentages, who should we take, who's the best shooter. And so that was really neat to kind of see them evolve and learn and grow. We also did not start with the shot clock. They got as much time as they needed to take their turn, and then we incorporated the shot clock. And I think they can agree that was challenging at first. So I think through this, they've grown a lot with their basic math skills and just grown with a lot of those like SQL skills. So it's been fun.
Here's a photo of the 4 girls at the Fiserv Forum. Again, sponsored by the Bucks. The 2 videos, Jason, are quick snippets of them playing their roles. Must have landed on the line. So before they come up and demonstrate how to play the game with you, I asked the girls to share kind of their favorite thing about that competition. Link, you want to start us off? What was your favorite part about the competition at Fiserv, that regional?
Good experience. It was really fun to play against teams from other schools.
Chloe?
My favorite part was getting the opportunity to go and, like Liv said, playing with other schools instead of our classmates. Probably like playing against different people our age and like like it's a new experience.
And you played some teams that were in middle
I see you
school.
guys beat a team of eighth grade boys the first day.
And some teams were younger
And
than
then you
fifth
guys
grade.
played a small younger than you.
Braylon?
Meeting new people and playing against like other people in our classes.
For sure. Okay, now's our opportunity to show the board how the game works. So if you guys wanted to each hop on a board.
There's one here, there's a couple on that side.
There is a team of cards on each side of the board so that you can see. One of you, yeah. So you want to come over here and play on this one? So your team is here.
So that's what your card is. So what if we have to do is to look and I got three. Okay, you go first. Well, there. So you only roll. Sorry. We did the first game.
This is gonna generate a diamond. Well, that is. The only one coming back. My flashes and other topics. Your whole turn of the shot.
I have no idea what you.
They should use that opportunity with that number, like the slashing, they're not.
Reduce their. Oh. Yeah.
And a big turn.
And then you add those one at a time. Is that it? Okay. Okay, so even how do you expect that?
So the stress one, and then with
Oh, I'm going to that side. See that one?
yeah.
Do they catch right at home?
Or,
Okay, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll keep going.
You're here twice a month. It's only here once.
then but if it's like spray, then it would.
So what number?
Oh.
Any number from the.
One of the things you talked about, like, from over there, you're really talking about. It's not for children to gather. Like, if you have. If no one can generate that, okay, have a house there.
Gotcha.
So they should put a flash here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made it. Okay.
Like, do I get now on time?
Oh, yeah, that's my only number. Okay, we're gonna record it. There is. Alright.
If I roll again?
Now what? Oh, that's okay.
The bigger.
Yeah, 7 and 8.
Oh,
So now I'm just like.
Yeah,
Let's go.
a lot of our students are still.
Or do we want the red?
For yellow.
So you got it even.
So blue 15, red
Put
15,
this on there right now.
15, almost virtually the same.
Oh, and I missed, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
three.
Why don't we take one more shot, everybody?
Whatever.
Okay, so we have to go with them. Yeah. Hey, I don't know.
So I got a letter.
All right.
So, and I had there is a mistake.
Okay, but there is a way.
Then
All right, your turn, you're up. You're up.
Which number goes first? Right, so
Yeah.
Like I got 40.
Not like.
I have to roll again? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
nine,
divided by 4, 4 divided by 6. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Divided by 4. Wait, no, for us.
You're waiting here.
They were undefeated.
Okay. All right. And we have 5.
Thank you.
Awesome, I love it.
You got this one.
You did a good job.
Right over here.
And I think we're wrapping it up. Oh, yeah. Well, we did.
I think it's a take care of putting.
Yeah. But that's okay. Very
Thank you very much for that.
I'm trying to help you. All right. Sorry to those of you at home, I guess, that weren't able to see that. Any questions for us while you've got us as your audience? I guess I did want to leave you with some student outcomes, and these were shared from that Learn Fresh company. 93% of the MBA Math Hoops educators report their students now find math to be more accessible, relevant, and engaging. MSG is on the agenda tonight to talk about a math program and curriculum, and every day there's a spinner involved in that program. So I think that's something that the kids certainly enjoy and appreciate.
I would also say I said this to one group that I opted just for mostly the board game because they're on tablets and devices and computers so much of their school day. But I felt this would be like a really good kind of hands-on type of thing for them to do. Next year, I would probably look to incorporate more of that stuff for at home and at home piece. But I think, yeah, my plan would just use the board game just because it's a good break in action from whatever we're doing.
Yes.
I think as families become more aware of it and know that that's something kids could do on a tablet, their Chromebook, that would certainly improve that math fluency, statistical analysis, social emotional literacy.
Love it.
Excellent. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How many teams were at the regional?
Oh my gosh. 30 maybe? Yeah, he's committed.
Thank you.
I think plus one other one, and the third one was a group of boys that didn't get picked. It's a lot of.
There was more demand than
And see.
than
It was
availability.
at 5 right when you walked in the door. They had like all these little, yeah.
Not on the court, we were hoping.
I don't.
It would have been fun. Excellent, thank you. Okay, next up is the school forest progress update. Hi, Rachel.
All right, good evening. My name is David Cruz. I'm one of the agriculture teachers at El Carne High School and kind of was involved in the early stages of our school forest, and we're gonna try to give you guys a little bit of updates tonight. So we'll do other introductions.
Jane Grahowski, I'm with Options. Juliet Nina with Options.
All right, so a couple quick things. We're here tonight because one is that whether you remember, it seems like a long time ago, but in the winter or fall of December of 2020, we had approached you, the Ag Department had approached and said, hey, you know, we've got some cool opportunities with the land that we have. And we proposed that we set aside 3 parcels of land to be considered as part of the Wisconsin School Forest Program, the School Forest System. We talk about that it gives one, besides just giving students an opportunity to learn outside and learn about some of those components out there. But by being part of that Wisconsin School Forest System, it does open up some additional opportunities and resources to us as well. One of those resources was back in February, we attended a school forest foundational planning, which is the 3 of us, as well as Brian Schaff, who's in the back, who's joined us in that process as well. But we want to kind of come and share with you tonight with where we're at, okay? So real quick, no, you're good. No, you're going to go. So real quick, just a reminder of what we got for you. We have 3 parcels. Now, again, it doesn't show up very well. One that I've spent most of my time with is the Market Street School Forest. And so it's actually the red, a little bit there. So all of that property that is between Market Street and Highway 12 and Highway 43, okay, between the middle school and Geneva Street, that 25 plus acres was officially designated as the Market Street School Forest. Most of the wooded property is right where Jason has the cursor at this point. That's where a lot of our legwork and most of our work has been done as part of that mix. As part of our conversation back in February, we know that one of our next conversations is we are really thinking that there's potentially, we may be coming to you in the near future, is that wetland and all that area that's highlighted in that green could very easily be incorporated as part of that Market Street School Forest under the advice of the Wisconsin State Forest Coordinator. We think that there's some certain advantages to putting that all in there as well. So to be part of school forest, it's all ecosystems. It doesn't have to be just forest. It can be the grasslands and the prairies and the wetlands and all those areas. So that will be something we're going to look in the very near future to see where we can enhance that a little bit. Okay, next one, please. The optional school forest, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this here. Juliet's going to talk about this one here in a little bit. You can see that one highlighted in red. And then the next one, please. And then at Tibbetts, if you think about the Tibbetts school property on that top left-hand corner, that little square is, right now you can see some conifers, but if you spend some time there, you're also going to see that we also have some oak trees that I don't know if Ross just left, but he's pretty confident he helped plant those when he was in elementary school. See, there we go. So that's been part of that mix as we go through that. So those are 3 properties. That's a quick reminder as what we've designated as being part of our school forest program. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of lead with the Market Street School Forest. Mentally, is that I think so. First up, I wanted to wrap my head around this because we got approval. We designated in December of 2020. So in my head, I'm going, all right, well, let's just assume it's 2021. Okay, so in 2021, 22, and in all reality, 23. I'm feeling very good about what we've been able to do, and we want to share that with you as well. Some of you, we've seen you as part of this mix, but. Since 21, we've had Wisconsin, our forestry students that are in our forestry class, as well as some of our wildlife classes. We've had FFA student volunteers, we've had staff volunteers, community volunteers. Typically in the fall, once mosquitoes are gone and all those things go through that, but we would spend about 1 day a week, usually Tuesday afternoons, but we've been working at, and we've been able to clear and create a figure-8 trail within that school forest program. We've had students last spring as part of one of our student activity days. They built 4 Aldo Leopold benches. You'll see one of those a little bit down the road. Aldo Leopold is a major conservation leader across the world. And so it's modeled after a design that he's given a lot of credit for. I know my name's on there, but to be honest, we've been doing it with our forestry students. Our forestry students, one of the units that they have to deal with a forest management plan. And so as collectively is that we've been using class time and having students talk about what are our wants and our needs and our uses, but then how do we make that happen? Okay, and so we've been working on that, and that'll be something we will eventually need to kind of put into action, make that our formal plan for that down the road. This year, we've had a lot of neat conversations at the beginning of the school year with how do we now start thinking about accessibility for all our students who need access with wheelchair access or whatever, is that we know that that's going to have to be one of those things that's going to have to come relatively soon. We have a great resource in all these places, Question is, how do we make that accessible? And so we've had some good conversations with that, but that'll be one of those things that we have moving forward. And within FFA, I'm hoping that most of you realize that we do a lot of stuff in regards to outreach and trying to share our story and share agriculture with students and community. We've been doing some neat outreach programs up to this point as well. So real quick, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but our classes, first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This lab, that forestry space is a phenomenal place to teach. It is a great way. How we teach our forestry and our natural resources and wildlife classes, it is phenomenal. And based off location, we can literally walk out the greenhouse door, a little 15-minute walk out there, and we're out there for 30 to 40 minutes, and we're back in within our 7-minute class period. It is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so our ag department's been using it. Our middle school agriculture class has been using that. And the summer academy, the Marsh and Pond program, they've been using those spaces as well. So again, a lot of neat access that's there. One of the first great moments was in the fall of October 2022. We had our first FFA Ag Ventures, where we invited the first grade classrooms to come in March to talk to them about forestry. Had a great morning. The afternoon got rained out, so that part didn't go well, but that was a great part as we go through those ideas. We've hosted other ag programs and FFA chapters to teach them about the forestry FFA contest. One of our students, they filled out a grant and they applied for a grant. So we've created education totes that are to be classroom ready. So if teachers have questions, they're like, hey, how can I use this space? We've got the totes, and there's a binder for grade levels. So 0 to 1 and 1 to 2 to 3. And so different grade levels, we have those assembled and ready to go for them. Last year was kind of on an ad hoc moment, but Wisconsin DNR has been partnering with other Midwest DNRs, Run for the Trees. So if you're a Bob Ross fan, so Happy Little Trees, it's a neat concept. But we just provided a place. It's an online run. People can do it wherever. We just offered, hey, here's a 5K course. You want to come out and run? Again, weather permitted. It was not pleasant weather. It was sleety, wet, cold, but it was still fun. This past fall, we had our first FFA story hike. And also we had like a forestry family scavenger hunt. So we gave them little bingo cards and they went out, they had to find images. Did they find a spider web? Did they find a maple leaf or whatever? And so families, it was cool. Families came out, they did it together as a family. Great way to be part of that. And we've started to see our middle school cross country team has been coming out and use it as well. Cool part is that they come walk first, move some of the branches, and then they run. So even better. All right, next one is just a few images. So this is an image of that first, our Forestry Ag Ventures program. Again, it was great experience, great opportunity. We think the students had a great time that was out there. But again, try to get to be very hands-on and gives a chance to get out and explore. Probably one of my favorite pictures, probably the top two are my favorite pictures. One, the boy with the magnifying glass, right? Getting out there and checking it out. And we love that exploration piece. And the other one in the top left, whenever a chance to get my high school students be able to help teach younger children, it gives me goosebumps. So again, some neat things. So that one's a quick example of that Ag Ventures program. Again, a little more of the Ag Ventures. Some of our student volunteers went out with our clearing our trails. Some of our trees come out pretty easily, some of them not so much. And then again, the Aldo Leopold benches. Again, Aldo Leopold has a Wisconsin background. He's known most famously for his book called St. County Almanac. And in that was an essay called The Land Ethic, but worldwide is whatever. But it's based off Sauk County, which is also where I grew up. So I have a little bit of connection to that as well. But like those benches, a lot of people think, well, you sit on the benches, but it's actually designed to be twofold, because if you sit in it the other way, then you use the backside to stabilize yourself if you're using binoculars or camera. So when you put your feet the other way, it's designed to stabilize. So kind of twofold approach. All right, I need to stop talking. I'm going to turn this over.
Okay, Jason, would you please click the link for the drone footage? So we've been enjoying the Option School Forest since 2021 by having an elective class called Forces of Nature. So I take high school students out for every class period we possibly can, unless it's downpouring. And as you can see, we have 5 acres heavily forested in most parts with some coniferous and deciduous trees. So we get out there and we do tree and plant ID. We also received some grant money for a class set of tools, so we go out and we remove invasive species, like buckthorn and honeysuckle.
Right.
And we talk about basic forest management practices, and we've really been enjoying it, and we'd like to expand someday and establish trails and a classroom space. So we have lots of dreams for this space to continue using it. So let's see, there's about 20 seconds left, but oh yeah, so this drone footage was taken in February. One of our Project Lead the Way students brought a drone to school, and I said, we really could use some footage of the school forest because it's an odd shape, and most people, when you look out from the classroom windows, you see the forest line to the back, but not everybody realizes it includes some tillable acreage that the FFA students have been tilling and planting crops in. So we see deer and sandhill cranes and turkeys, all sorts of animals pretty much daily coming out of the woods. So we're really lucky. We find all these great discoveries like a door or construction spoils that have been tilled into some dirt, and we start picking through and find it's a big pile of cinder blocks, probably from an old farm building. So there are really interesting things out there. So we've quite enjoyed it, and we've also gotten some volunteers to come out, and adult volunteers with chainsaws to cut down the bigger buckthorn and honeysuckle trees.
You make great memories.
Yes, we have a lot of great finds, and the kids love making wreaths and crowns, and yes. So there's just so much we like to do in the forest, and so much more we dream about doing. The Tibbetts School Forest, that's about a 3-acre area, and it was probably the most public and student ready area because of all of the pre-existing trails. The PE classes get out there and use those trails, and in about 2 weeks, there's going to be a storybook walk. So look for more information to come, probably posted on the Tibbetts Facebook page.
It's part of our student, yeah. If I recall, you guys are also partnering with the beginning of the book box from the public library, correct, as well? So one thing that we've learned about is that even where we're going with the public library is that when COVID came through and everyone wanted to do stuff outside, the public library has a series of books that are also ready to be storybook walk ready. So they've offered some of those partnerships for us as well, so we can have some collaboration between us and them as well.
Nice.
Okay, so I am talking about today with the forestry program. On February 2024, us three and I went to the UW Stevens Point planning workshop, and that's where I came into the forestry program. She's way more in tune with the options for us than I am. But we attended this workshop with the purpose of providing training to additional staff members about Wisconsin school forest programs and resources available. We did a lot of communication with other districts in Wisconsin and what they have, and I kind of consider ourselves pretty lucky because a lot of districts have to travel to get to their forest, sometimes 20 to 30 miles to get to their forest. So we are super lucky that we have it in our back doors. So we also, the purpose too was to revisit the development of the school district school forest management committee. Motivation for our presentation today, time to share what's been done based on individual efforts, and just to create more dialogue about using these outdoor spaces that we have and support the student and the community learning. So our short-term goals, which is within the year, we're looking to establish a district-wide forestry committee that guides both the management and the education plans for the forestry program. Create use policies, management plans, staff training and service, and ongoing. Meet secondary expectations of Wisconsin School Forest Program to make the Elkhorn Area School District School Forest information available on a website. To gain more support with administrators and with our teachers here in the district. Find correlations with existing curriculum to outside classroom resources. I'm familiar with a lot of Project Lead the Way modules out there, and when I was up in that program, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna fit into this, we can do this, you know. So I'm already have correlated a lot of things in Project Lead the Way modules with what we can potentially do out in these forests live, hands-on. We would like to create and get some discussion going on creating signage that will be used for all the Elkhorn Area School District forestry locations to just inform the usage of the property that we have. We'd like to build a connection with the school forester to gain insight into other opportunities and the uses for our forests. Like Juliet said, we got a lot of unwanted
Poison ivy.
things that we really don't want to subject our students to. And so we kind of have to look a little bit further into how can we make it a little bit, more available to our students and know that they're safe. We want to build a connection with the school. Oh, wait, next slide. I'm sorry. Long-term goals and sustainable goals for this forest that we have. We want to grow and strengthen a committee, resulting in support from administrators. We need the teachers, the community, and most importantly, students involvement. We need to develop a district education program that provides an outdoor education experience at every grade level for the district. Establish a plan to provide finances to support the management of school forests and implementation of outdoor education programs, and to establish a district plan that outlines the school district commitment to sustain our outdoor learning spaces regardless of staff volunteer changes in the future. So I think that is where we're at. So thank you.
Yeah. So I guess, are there any questions anyone has at this point of things that have been happening, or again, putting us together, it was neat to kind of see what actually, I personally feel very good about what we've been able to accomplish in 3 years. From the point of concept to things that we've been able to make public, that excites me. But again, is that, we had a chance for us to spend some time at Stevens Point to kind of think more of that strategic planning. I know that in my head it goes through a lot, but I think we need to get a point where we can have more of that district-wide concept. So we're looking for those types of conversations.
And if people want to go out on the trails, park halfway between the high school and middle school on Market Street, and especially that one.
Yep.
And then walk over the hill, and there's.
Yeah, you'll find 3 entrances right now,
Yeah,
right into the forest area. Little wet right now. So don't go to that. Yeah, as we talked about at the in Stevens Point, when I introduced our property, I said that forest is actually a great example of what happens with urban sprawl, because it's land that has gotten trapped between road development. When water runs off, it has to go somewhere. So that is a perfect example where we can see that impact of urban and forestry coming together.
Any concerns with the cicadas and the impact on it?
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna come.
Yep.
To be honest, if they would eat buckthorn, we'll truck them in. No, I mean, it's cicadas, they'll be fine. I mean, they're gonna be more damaging on the young ones. I don't know about it. I'm assuming the option program is a lot like my forestry class discovered when I sent them on scavenger hunt to find new trees. And there are next to 0 new trees in the Market Street School Forest because of all of the overbrush.
Wow.
So, but cool part is in that 2+ years we've cleaned stuff out where the trails are, where it's been cleaned, we're already starting to see sprouts. So that's the cool part. Our students are able to see when we clean up an area and make it better, its productivity increases.
And I just asked because Sonia Daly does a lot of work on the wetland area at the middle school. Sent out to not remove buckets that they put over the young trees that they've grown. So I don't know how long a tree can survive in a bucket, but
Well, I mean, it will have some light access, but most of those trees they're used to growing in shady type conditions, so they'll be fine.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing what you guys are doing. Next time we can get the kids outdoors and.
thank you.
is the approval of the school board minutes for the regular and closed session meeting of the March 20th. Just looking for a motion, unless there's anybody had any questions on it. No, okay, so looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Since Ed is not here, we should probably do. Yeah, go ahead.
We just need a motion.
Do we need to separate them because Ed is online?
It's went offline, it's not online anything.
Oh, he's not. Okay. He was earlier, so.
Yeah, he was, but
Okay,
it looks like he got offline.
okay. So need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the, sorry, let me back up. Are we doing them separately or together?
Together.
Thank you very much. Lost my verbiage.
It's under number 8.
Nope. No, I closed it. Gotta get it back in. Thoroughly. Thank you very much. I make a motion to. What do you? 8, 7, 8. I can't.
Move to approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2024 regular and closed session school board meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
Second, thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2024 regular and closed session school board meeting minutes. Well, no, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then, Mr. Truan, you have the general and other fund bills for us?
Yes, the general other fund bills this evening covers checks number 151,866 through 151,955, wire transfers 827 through 844, and ACH numbers 686 through 717, the combined amount of $543,168.54. And then there was a memo providing some additional information on a number of the bills in your board packet.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Truan?
There's a $1,400 bus bill for the Italy trip to and from the airport. Was that something that was recouped?
Yeah, that was all funded through
Plan
Fund
for it.
21 for the
Yeah.
fundraising.
Yeah, that's what I figured, wasn't sure.
All right, nope, there's no more questions, then I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the general and other fund bills of April 8th, 2024, check numbers 151,866 to 151,955. Wire numbers 827 to 844 and ACH numbers 686 to 717. In the combined amount of $543,168.54 as presented.
Is there a second?
I said,
It's been moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills of April 8th, 2024, check numbers 151,866 to 151,955, wire numbers 827 to 844, and ACH numbers 686 to 717, in the combined amount of $543,168.54. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then we're moving on to the revisions to the 2024-2025 school calendar. And the notes say that it's due to Act 10, but I'm guessing that means
Act
Act
20.
20. Yeah.
All right, and I know the curriculum council, we had a make a presentation related to Act 20. Act 20 was a legislation that was passed this last
July.
legislative session in the July, related to a reading mandate throughout the state. We did talk about it's quite an onerous bill and requires all the school districts in the state to adopt one of 4 curriculum choices, or this initial year we can do a crosswalk, identifying that we are following the science of reading, which we will be doing this first year. And hopefully waiting to see if there's some changes or amendments to Act 20. One of which is, I know CISA 2 is going to convene a group of superintendent leaders to make a request for a trailer bill that would exempt school districts that are meeting or exceeding expectations from large chunks or portions of Act 20. The reason why we have a calendar amendment related to that is part of that legislation will need to train all of our, I don't want to say train our teachers at the elementary level are already significantly trained in reading. They've adopted, here's a set number of approved trainings that you can choose for reading. And there's approximately 4 days is what we need for that training. So we're proposing to block out the June 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the elementary schools, the number of minutes that they have, or that they're required to receive instruction, we already exceed by 11 to 12 days, depending on the year. So this would allow us, the students would end at Memorial Day, or yes, prior to that last week before Memorial Day, and then in this proposal, the elementary teachers grades. Is it 4K through 5, Amy?
Kindergarten through 5th grade.
Kindergarten through 5th grade, and administrators, which are all required to be trained, would receive their training in that one. If the legislation changes, if a trailer bill comes through, then we can come back and amend or tweak or adjust, but that was in my question. Yeah, but for the time being, we've got to book out the training, get that set up and established this far ahead of time because the entire state's under the same obligation.
Right, so I'm assuming the legislators did not pass the request to have additional time to implement.
No, not yet. Maybe we can get a trailer bill to roll through, and there's a lot of requirements related to Act 20 that. But it's just not, for example, we all have to utilize a screener test starting in the fall by according to legislation that doesn't exist. There's no screener out there that does all the things that the screener test is supposed to do. So we're living in fantasy island, so to speak.
So
We can't go through this.
where do our legislators fall on this subject? I mean, I know you've reached out to them many times and.
I think I think there's a good chance for a trailer bill. So what extent it gets passed, I think part of the challenge that they have is there's a significant disconnect between the understanding of how well Wisconsin does in reading. As a state, we're in the top 5 of the nation in reading and mathematics and student performance. Most people, they don't realize that because of how they changed the cut scores years ago. So I think as that education goes, when I presented to the CISA 2 superintendents meeting, it was unanimous amongst the group. There wasn't a single superintendent that said, no, I think Act 20 is great the way it is. We should just leave it alone. So I think, and that is the largest CISA in the state. I think there could get enough momentum, and there's the next legislative sessions in the fall. So hopefully we can get that. Maybe something on the table, but you've got to have, there's bipartisan support for the bill. We've got to get bipartisan support for a trailer bill. So I don't know. So I do think we need to modify the calendar though, plan accordingly.
Yeah.
And we could always adjust if needed. I know from a budgetary piece and something the board still has to decide, one of the ad hoc committee recommendations was to shorten the school year schedule anyway, and eliminate the additional days that are built in, traditionally called snow days or built-in snow days as we exceed the minimum number of minutes, but that's something to be determined down the road. So, any other questions on the calendar? You're right, Ed, we can go on for an hour on some of the ridiculousness of Act 20, but it's more so for the calendar.
Yeah, that will come up at some point. It's Act 20. I don't know how, but we're gonna have to discuss it. And that was my question, was if we approve this, can it be amended? Because hopefully something passes.
Anything can be amended.
Yeah.
It can. I would say that families will start planning
Of course
trips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's some-
right,
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. So we need to put the word out at this point.
The other option is not to amend the calendar and then have the teachers do the work in the summer. Or outside of that contracted time, that would cost about $80,000. Simply to compensate them at the minimum curriculum rate, which to be honest, I don't really feel good about asking them to put in that work for $18 an hour.
Right.
Which is significantly below their base pay, but that's what our camping is, so
Yeah.
that's the other alternative to.
There's one date that just kind of popped out at me, in April of 2025, we have obviously the 18th, the Easter really, really late next year. On the 20th, so we have the 18th off. And then we have the 21st off as a in-service. Are you saying we need that in-service day there and? Cause then that's another 5 day, cause we just come off of spring break. You know, the end of March, and then we're adding another basically 5 days, 5-day weekend. So 3 days off of school. On the 18th through the 22nd of April. Do we need to have both the 21st and 22nd or?
22nd is just for 4K and 5, 4K through 5, it is. That's the first
Oh.
day of our, that would be when we begin the training. It
Okay.
has to do with the trainer's availability. She's not available on the 21st. And one
Okay.
of the hard things in trying to balance this is, ensuring that our teachers still have their in-service time throughout
Sure.
the school year.
Sure.
We have other initiatives such as math rolling in. By law, we have to have begun the teacher training July 1st of 2025, and we're kind of pushing that to the latest time.
Yeah.
We will finish that training in August of 2025, so that's when the remainder is
Okay.
of that
Okay.
time. So we're kind of stretching it over even 2 school years.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 22nd is, and that's similar to, we have that time in February. You can see we always try to piggyback it, so family can do long weekends. It fits in where we have other days
Sure.
joined.
Okay.
So the 2 in October, like
So
October,
on
February is
on those aqua colored ones, it's only the 4K to 5, the elementary
It is
basically.
only
then we're
elementary.
off of school.
and we're still within our extended days just because of
Yeah.
our contact minutes with students. So we still have snow days to spare.
Okay. Yeah, I know we have a lot more snow days available for the elementary age.
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do want to clarify, so it's on our, because this question came up in my district advisory committee. It's not because the elementary teachers work more hours or more minutes, some had that question. It's because there's a lower requirement for the number of minutes for elementary students.
So, looking for a motion to approve the revised 2024-2025 school calendar.
I move to approve the revised 2024-2025 school calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
Shouldn't it be 2025, 2026?
Nope.
No.
We're on
Oh, okay.
2024.
We're doing
Oh.
it separate, yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay,
separate.
I'm ahead of you, yeah, I'm ahead of you, sorry.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the revised 2024-2025 school calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right.
Now we'll move on to the 2025-2026 school calendar. And this is the first time that we're seeing this one, so this one has not been approved yet. Anybody have any comments or?
This is a similar, same structure that we typically have. We try to put the in-service days within our trimester schedule, so they fall around that end date of the trimester when we can. And over the years, we've tried to balance it between Monday and Fridays, a mix, because then the student selective classes, especially at the elementary level, don't get hit on that same rotation.
Yeah.
This is presuming the board doesn't choose to shorten the school calendar from a budgetary purpose or reason. We could always go back and modify that if that's a term, so this does have the built-in additional minutes.
Okay. My only comment was, spring break is really long. Goes from March 27th through April, well, I guess for elementary. Well, no, it's,
No, that's all.
that's all school through April 6th, you know.
This must be.
I think
Easter
it's the
weekend.
combined Easter spring.
It
break.
is.
So it looks like.
It is, but we had that this year and we just had the Monday through Friday off. We did not have Easter Monday off.
Or the Friday before.
Or the Friday before. No, yeah, we did have the
We had
Friday
an
before.
in-service day Thursday,
Right.
the Friday off, and then we were back to stay.
Okay.
Similar days.
Yeah.
I don't know, why do we, is Easter on the?
It's on the
29th?
5th. It's,
No,
no,
the
Easter's
5th.
on April 5th that year in the 2026.
Why do we have the 27th?
It's in lieu of Good Friday on the 3rd,
Yeah.
because normally we would take that time.
Oh, okay.
Because Good Friday will be on the 3rd,
Will be during the Easter break, so.
Oh, we're already on the spring
but
break.
we had that this year,
Yeah, that would already be on the spring break, so.
but we didn't have the Monday off after Easter.
We didn't, because we took the in-service day on the Thursday before the Friday.
Got it.
So it was the same number of days, they were
Got
just divided. This may actually be better because some families do travel on Easter and then they don't have to be back.
Sure.
So for some reason it landed on the 6th versus the 26th.
Yeah.
I know the staff feedback, and I don't know if any of you have received others, but I've heard staff and families having that 27th off helps on their travel costs.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you don't like having that 27th off, it just shortens. You know, the day somewhere else, or you could move it interchange.
So whether we put it there, it's gonna be somewhere, right? Is that what
Right.
you're telling me? It's either gonna be that day or somewhere else.
Same number of days, yeah.
Got it.
I mean, I really would like, in November, that Monday and Tuesday off. I've always, up north, nobody had
Oh,
Monday
I
and
know.
Tuesday school.
In
Yeah.
Texas has the whole week off of Thanksgiving.
Just saying, full a day there, I'm all good for that.
You'd be thankful.
What do you think, Claire? I don't, maybe that's something to actually survey the parents, or we see what the preference is on something like that, but I know for. It's really not a holiday that's travelable for me, so but I just don't have any family that lives in Wisconsin, so. That's so.
Do you need to make a decision on this evening?
Yeah.
It's a couple years later if you want to ruminate on it, but the only reason it's set up this way, it's not like it's just. When we go to build it, we build it like the prior ones,
Right.
as close as we can.
Right.
Yeah.
And again,
Just like we did with.
we can
24,
always
25,
amend it.
amend it.
Yeah,
And in this school year, it looks like we just have a couple of trainings built in, the 23rd and the 12th, the 23rd of October and the 12th of February.
so that'd be.
That's just for parent teacher
Parent-teacher
conferences, okay,
Yeah. The dark blue are all of our training and service.
got
days.
it. So we don't have anything that we have to do with Act 20 in that calendar.
So Amy, which ones, you were saying that half of it's gonna be in 2025, which ones are those?
We'll utilize the flex time. You'll see that's kind of down in the gray box. There's 40 hours of flex time for teacher training, et cetera, that we'll be able to use in August.
Okay.
To
so
finish the
before
training.
school
So,
starts.
yeah, it won't impact families.
Yeah.
It's not even on this calendar yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be built in.
Okay. Do we get good participation in parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level when we pair them with long weekends?
We do because we offer what's not locked on are the evening times, so if families are traveling, they're
Okay.
able to go on a different evening.
Okay,
For those that are working, evening shifts, this opens up, the purpose of that is to give morning conference time
okay,
at the elementary level where we still have really high conference attendance.
okay. Okay. Okay, so looking for a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school calendar. We don't have to. Nobody makes a motion, then it'll get tabled, I guess, right?
Yeah, I would just like feedback as to what you'd like to see differently. Full week and Thanksgiving time or whatever we would have to.
Suggestions here.
Or we can wait to see, we can say, you know, what, let's table it and wait and see after the budgetary meetings. What you want to decide, because we moved past the calendar so far ahead,
Yeah,
it affords us that opportunity.
yep,
Yeah, and there are people, believe it or not, I don't know how they do it, but they will, once. I've had someone ask me, when's the 25-26 calendar coming out? Cause they're planning trips already.
there are employers that, or people with professions that have to plan their vacations a year ahead of time.
Or especially the graduation dates, they're like,
Yep,
no, hey, what's that?
yep.
So.
So Julia, I move that we table the passing of the 2025-2026 calendar until the budgetary issues are completed over the summer and then coming back to this afterwards.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table the 2025-2026 school calendar decision. I'm gonna do a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Andre.
Yeah.
Mr. Gayheart.
Yeah.
Mr. Gatton.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa.
Yes.
Mrs. Reckles.
Yes.
Mr. Barkus.
Yes.
Mr. Forster.
Yes.
Okay. Right, moving on to the student representative report. You guys are up.
Started off with the high school. A big congrats to all the winter athletes who were awarded an all-conference award and for doing a great job at representing our school. The Mean Girls musical is this Friday and Saturday, and tickets are $5 for students and $7 for adults. However, you can buy a VIP ticket for $25, and that includes all the bonuses on that photo right there.
Yeah, you get early seating and a special order. Yeah, which I'm assuming is being catered by the culinary department. Photo. Yes, thing photo and some mocktails.
It's like
I
non
thought that was
alcohol.
no
Non-alcohol drink. I didn't know what it was.
Because you only drink the real stuff.
For the middle school, we'd like to congratulate all of our 7th and 8th grade students inducted into the National Junior Honor Society. We'd like to wish a congratulations to all of our February students of the month. And our future freshman night will take place on Monday, April 15th from 5 to 7 p.m.
Jackson third graders do an activity to work on teamwork, picture on the bottom left. Kindergartners play a game to work on their subtraction skills. And Jackson Elementary's color run will be on May 22nd at 4:30 p.m. and it will be $25 a person.
And what is the what are they raising money for? Just for Jackson School, or do we know?
PTA.
Okay, all right. Cool. Color runs are always fun.
Not to clean up your car.
A huge thank you to the Elkhorn Fund for donating $500 to the Westside PTA to continue the Gotcha Book Reward Program. Mrs. Recknagel's students are using their math skills and learning how to keep score. And here are some important dates to mark in your calendar for Westside, most notable being the last day of school on June 6th.
Tibbetts third graders worked with Miss Debbie and Miss Jerry on making paper. Third graders also participated in a book box challenge, and these students earned at least 100 reading counts points for the challenge. And kindergartners created some awesome Easter art to decorate the hallways.
April is Autism Acceptance Month. To show the staff support at Options on Thursdays, they encourage their students to join staff in wearing an autism awareness shirt or the color blue. For spring break, the first grade academy students wrote the room. They were given a sheet and had to find the 8 words hidden around the room to write on their sheet.
Elkhorn Youth Build and Habitat for Humanity collaboratively built a home in Whitewater. And this last Saturday was the dedication, and the family was given the keys to their new home. And a big thank you to Adams Powerful Solutions for hosting an amazing employer visit. Students were able to learn about a variety of fields along with employability skills necessary for those students.
We'd like to thank all of the parents and volunteers for wrapping up a great young athlete season. It was a great success and will return in the fall of 2024.
Thank you, you guys. Okay, first reading of the revised policy 361, instructional material selection and evaluation procedures.
Okay, I was unable to attend the last policy committee meeting, but I understand the policy was finalized and is ready for review of the full board. I think the blue is the new language, which was quite a bit of new language, and I know the policy committee felt strongly in the board. We did have a presentation and sent it back down to the policy committee.
Correct.
To really emphasize some guidelines on that selection of the materials and just to codify that so that it's there in writing for everyone to see. Then it also a provision that was added, which speaks to the library's not acquiring any material that's obscene in nature and defining what that is in accordance with the Miller test, which is a Supreme Court case.
Yeah, we used that, that we changed the language. We were discussing using the word pornographic, but then learned that the only legal term that is actually used in these cases is the word obscene, and that's an actual definition that's used in legal cases. So that's why we went with that language.
And then the talks about the acquisition procedures, and this was taken into consideration feedback from the school librarians as well, including the gifts and donations, and they also fall under that same criteria. The collection and the weeding, putting in some language related to that as well, which libraries always do. You can see the striking of the old language. And then I think the procedures here in regards to changing some significant changes to the challenge criteria, the reconsideration of library materials and what that process looks like. Still maintains that any adult citizen of the school district and or parent or guardian of a student of the district, so it could be an open enrolled student that a parent has a concern or a guardian, can express a formal request for a reconsideration of a literary resource with the principal of the appropriate school. But the procedure is different in that the complainant's required to complete a survey or a form related to that. And no longer will the principal review or take into consideration that review unless there's 5 complainants from 5 different households. So that changes that criteria. You can see the form is linked in here. Another piece that I really like as part of this form is it has some great questions related to it. This is just some boilerplate, get that background information in regards to
This form has to be filled out for each individual item. Yeah.
By 5 different individuals within 60 days that would trigger a review for that. And so the title, the author / producer, what brought the resource to your attention, what concerns you about the resource and how may it violate the district selection policy? So it's asking you need to, what was violated, why shouldn't it be in there? Why do you feel it's necessary to remove access to this resource for all students and not only your student? So I think again, that tradition Elkhorn, we've really recognized that parents have a lot of choice and discretion. We get much more so than many districts will in regards to opting their kids out, not requiring that. But at the same time, you're then crossing a line and you want to deny it for all students. Anything else you'd like the principal to consider? And then I think this is critical as well, because a lot of what we saw is components being taken out of context or just, in a 1,200-page book, there might be, here's these 9 incidents that we consider to be not appropriate. So by signing the form, they verify that they've read the resource in its entirety. And we put down the word reviewed because it's also for video or audio, so it's not. But the intent is that they're basically signing off that they've read the material in its entirety. So that way they are taking into context the intent, the author, and then the inappropriateness of it does outweigh the literary love. I think those are the large bucket items in there. I don't know, any from the policy committee want to add anything?
Go with the highlights.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. If anyone has, you're welcome to have a discussion on it. If there's something that you see that you're.
How does it compare to Neola? Is it?
Well, didn't we start with the Neola policy, especially in that first?
Yeah, so some of the language is
That
out of
first
Neola,
section.
yeah. There's a lot of districts looking to see what we do.
Yeah.
In regard to the challenge piece.
Right.
So this is really unique.
Yeah.
But I think that we'll see a lot of movement in that direction. But the top language is more comparable, but then it deviates.
I did ask I went to a law conference back in March and, school law conference, and they actually used our school district as an example in the training. And, I asked the attorney afterwards, have you ever, because we were considering this 5-person thing, and I asked him, I said, have you ever seen another school district do this? And then he said, no, but I like it. So he thought it was a unique approach, and there's other school districts that have done other things like restrict the number of challenges per year, things like that. We talked about that, but didn't feel that with the way how we have it set up, that was necessary at this point to do that. So
I think originally the committee looked at what was like 25
and then
people or
10, and then we were like, you know what?
I think the requirement to
Yeah.
verify that, I've looked at the material in its
Yeah.
entirety, that
Yeah.
kind of.
Mhm. Yeah. And one other thing is that part of this too, Jason, that that it can't be
For
valid
5
for 5 years, and that's something. So the
That was
reconsideration will
common.
stand. Yeah.
I have 2 things.
Yeah.
For one, this is specifically talking about library materials throughout almost all of this.
Mhm.
I could see
Mhm.
somebody coming down the pipeline saying, this book is being given to my child in class.
Mhm.
This is not a library
Mhm.
issue. This is a instructional material, which is what it was originally listed as.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be a library issue because
It's not
we're talking about something, it's not,
So after this is
something separate for that?
Yeah,
passed,
we're
we
separating
need
out
to-
the instruction material and addressing that
okay.
separately.
So then we need to take this language and
Okay,
Some of it will
Well,
transfer
it'll-
over,
Yeah.
not all of it, but some of it
When
will.
you're referring to policy 330, when we looked at the policies, there was kind of redundancy because we had instructional material selection evaluation procedures, which really spoke more towards the library piece.
yeah,
But it did incorporate the instructional material. Then we also had a separate instructional material
Mhm.
policy. So the thought was to finish this and then carry over the
Yeah.
challenge.
okay, so then it was something you guys already thought about, cool, I like it. The other thing that I had a question on is, we had been talking about potentially putting in or looking into a rating system similar to like videos or video games or, you know, so many other different things that have rating systems. Are we planning on going down that path of trying, because I mean, from what I understand from Jason, there is nothing out there for this. So we would be creating something from scratch with it.
Yeah, so from my perspective, no, we need the industry to
Correct.
come up with that, creating it, it's like, I would say, according to Rebecca, I think, when we did a visit over there for the library, the largest percentage of adult books in our library, which we do have adult books, are nonfiction, which don't have any explicit material in them. That's just, the publishers choose whether it's youth, young adults, or adults, and so it doesn't have anything to do with the reading of it. I think that's something more from a legislative or an industry base that they need to come up with. So I don't see how we, with our resources
Right.
as a district, could
Right.
Come up with something.
come up with something like that. And there's over, there's, I believe the number of new published books annually is over 1 million.
Sure.
So it's
It would be almost impossible to be able to do something like that.
and that's maybe why the industry asks them to just select what they feel the book is. What level, I don't know.
Rebecca uses a system that this is the third time I've forgotten the name of it. But she uses a system and a resource.
Backend.
Akin,
Yeah.
thank you. Voice in the sky.
Oh, I like that.
It's pretty robust and she utilizes it really well. And I was pretty comfortable the way she explained it, the way she uses it.
Yep.
I was really comfortable with it. She did a good job.
And she shared that like for her evaluation materials, if she feels it's a borderline one that might cause controversy, she doesn't order it because the students can get access to anything through the library system.
Right.
And if our local library, and they can request it at school, it can be delivered to school, so they can access the entire Wisconsin library net.
Yep.
Georgia Public Library.
Yep. So we have a really good partnership with them. Library.
Okay. Those are my only questions I had.
Great questions.
I'm wondering on the form itself, when they are submitting an item for review. I'm getting hung up on 14, read and or reviewed. I understand your explanation. You need something more specific, because somebody can say,
Well,
I reviewed the book. Did they read the book so they get contextual?
We could
More of
modify
it.
that to
And
say
it-
I've read the book in its entirety
Or, right.
and or reviewed the video or.
Yeah, cause I get your explanation, like I say, I'm not nitpicking that, I just, it's a little ambiguous, and if somebody's gonna nitpick it.
I'm not gonna lie, I am 95% sure that anybody that's going to come through and have a book review are just gonna click that without.
And that's.
I think that's, I understand your
Right,
point.
they're,
Right, but
and they're attesting to it,
We
so.
can't police integrity.
Right, I know, I understand that, but I think, but
I
this would, I mean, I would think would address. At least offering that, hey, I have read
Right,
this.
right, and
We
they're.
could
attesting
we could
to it,
integrate and I have passed the reading counts test.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know, it was just a thought, and I guess I'm looking at it that lens.
I have the same concern through the language. Let's look at modifying that language to make it clear that that's that expectation. They're basically, you're right, it's putting their integrity there then. I would hope that if it's someone that has concerns over a concept of the material of the book, that they're also personal integrity in it.
Absolutely, I appreciate changing otherwise, but yeah, okay. I mean,
But no, I don't disagree with you. The way it's listed, they could be, oh, I just need to review it. in its
Mhm.
entirety.
Yeah, because it says or, and or.
So it just, we just need
Oh,
to
sure.
tighten
sure.
it up, just massage it a little bit, and I don't
You
know.
wanna, work on language.
I could look at that and
Feel
see
free
if I-
to email it to Mr. Tazak and then.
I'll do that.
And then we can have that ready for the next meeting, because this is just the first reading.
So
Sounds
the,
good.
the other question, number 10 on there, what does it matter what brought the resource to their attention? What does it matter if it was the kids or reading it online or they read the book themselves and they just happened to notice it?
Or are we trying to figure out whether or not it came from a
A
website?
website, yeah.
But even if it does come from the website, as long as they're saying that they've read it, what does it matter?
I think it's more of just wanting to know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think there's any,
That's fair.
any. I mean, I think it's helpful to know, like, my kid brought this home,
Yeah.
or,
class
I
is reading
read
this.
about it on a website and I'm basically trying to find out if it's in our library.
If a kid comes home and says, well, my kid was upset with this page, and we had a discussion about it, that speaks volumes over,
Versus,
I saw it on a website.
Yeah.
And then you know if the kid is.
But it doesn't, but in terms of this doesn't matter whether or not they had the kid come home with it or
no,
not.
it doesn't matter, it's just helpful to understand.
From just knowing kind of.
Curiosity, right. Right.
All right. Very good discussion. We'll work on that for the second reading then and bring it back. The voice in the sky can tweak some of that question.
Oh, that's
14
true.
language too. Voice in the sky.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Drop me an email.
Little
We can chat.
arrogance in that tone of voice there, voice in the sky.
Well, now you gave me that title.
Exactly.
All right, for those, that is Sarah Bosch, the 612 director.
All right, moving on to our director's report.
And Amy, I'm gonna give you the mouse.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
gonna go grab some more.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the voice on the ground, boots on the ground. That's what I am. Good, so, Amy G, K-5 Director of Instruction, I'm very, very excited to be here tonight to review and share our recommendation for some new math materials at the the 4K through grade 5 level, beginning next year. We've been with our Presence series for 10 years now. Things were going very well at that 5-year point, so we just continued utilizing those materials, but we are definitely at a point where a revise of materials is very necessary. I have a small team of teachers that are here tonight too, and we will hear from them in a little while. But very excited to be here and share with you the direction that we're going to be heading. So a couple of things we're going to accomplish in the next 10 minutes is I certainly want to introduce our math committee members. We had 25 people pulled together from 3 of our elementary sites. We have been working since December of 2022 on this initiative. And so we'll be sharing who were those individuals. We'll share our elementary math needs assessment briefly. We'll overview the different resources that we did review. We'll give you an update on our pilot implementations because we did take time this year to look at 2 programs more in depth. And then it is a unanimous decision what our recommendations come forward. All right, so we wanted to make sure we had equal representation. So we had 3 teachers, 1 from each building, 1 from each grade level across the board. So sharing with you who is on our elementary K2 roster here. Our elementary 3 to 5 teachers, Stephanie Lockwood, Amy Demeters here this evening, Lourdes Portas here. We also have Cindy Reberg and Amy Zickert from that lower primary level who are with us this evening. So thank you. In addition to that, we have a reading interventionist in the district. We have our EL instructor. We had special education, other instructional coaches, and of course our admin team were right there with us learning as we go. So 15 months of lots of meetings. That's what we use that in-service time for. Time to reflect, research, review, pilot. We conducted site visits with some of the products that we were interested in, so we could really talk to teachers and see how this was flowing in districts that were a little more established with these programs. And then we kept coming back together, trying to determine the best fit for the Elkhorn School District. A brief snapshot of what's presently in place. We've been using the McGraw-Hill MyMath, a very traditional math program. And we teach math for 60 minutes a day, plus there's an additional 60 to 90 minutes a week during our What I Need time, where we're targeting additional math skills at, all different ability levels at that time. We utilize a workshop model. Last year, you may have heard the middle school talk about their workshop model as well. At the elementary, the workshop model may begin with more direct instruction, some guided practice from the teacher, and then the most impactful part of the workshop model actually is that small group instruction that then takes place at the table. So I may call over my highest ability students first, knowing that this concept is even a little low for them, and I'm going to boost that lesson and give them perhaps even a different activity. But meanwhile, my students might be working on that activity. Next, I rotate in this group. Other groups are then moving to, this might be some hands-on game activity. This might be some fact fluency on the computer. They might be working on the practice activity I assign. And the students are in motion. And, for our youngers, that's a lot of good movement that they need also within that 60-minute block. So one of the key things we wanted to do was find a program that we could utilize that workshop method with. That was very critical from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. Now, the MyMath series, when it was adopted, we looked at those standards, we looked at the rigor in the book, and it was determined that because of our 4K program and how our students were coming in, we took the 1st grade book and implemented that in kindergarten. The 2nd grade book rolled into 1st grade, et cetera, et cetera. Things were left a little loose, I would say, in 5th grade, and a few years ago, we really tightened that up. Some of you may be familiar that we have, in a sense, an accelerated program that as our 4th graders move to 5th grade, we look at who are some of our highest flyers in math, and it's time to kind of shift them into a class. So about 1/3 of our 5th graders at each elementary then start in the Big Ideas 6th grade book, which would make sense. We've just finished 5th. We also know that this pacing by 5th grade is a lot, and we sometimes need just a chance to catch our breath with some of our students. But we do transition them into Big Ideas in 5th grade so that they then are ready for the middle school, which continuing to use Big Ideas. We don't see that system going away. We do have a plan to keep that 4th to 5th grade potential advancement in place next year. But one of the things that's confusing for move-ins is, okay, now my child just finished a 2nd grade book and now they're in a 4th grade book when they get to 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Sometimes that was a really big boost for kids if they had not started on this journey from day one. Also hard to explain to parents, just like that rationale over and over again. So we're looking to grade be on par with grade. In our deep dive that we did, and identifying the ideal resource, our K2 teachers, this is some of their feedback. All teachers were surveyed. It needs to be engaging and rigorous. We want to provide opportunities for collaboration. Students need to start owning their math thinking. When you ask them to explain how they came up with this answer, it's crickets. They can't explain the why behind their getting it, and that's so critical. Spiraling means that we didn't just touch on geometry in October and we never see those concepts again. It has to keep coming back. Things like, your basic facts do spiral. I mean, of course, we're using numbers all the time, but if we're introducing something with fractions, we need to be reviewing and then coming back to that throughout the year for those concepts to stick. I kind of always felt like when I taught 2nd grade, you're driving a train and the train's stopping and it runs its route. And 50% of the kids get on the train at that time.
Yeah.
And then when I come back again 6 weeks later, I might get 10,
Yeah.
they keep coming on. And soon I got them all on board, but it takes a couple rounds. Provide reteaching enrichment resources, provide time in the scope and sequence to do those things. And really, we felt that number sense, we see in a sense strong number sense in kindergarten, first grade, second, but there was a pivotal point when we looked at our data, third, fourth, and fifth grade, something was missing there. Like what are we doing that we're testing so high here, but we transition and it is literally around the corner in every elementary building, and then something wasn't solid and we were concerned about that. With our 3-5 teachers, again, emphasis, and they're saying, you guys gotta really hit the number sense more and problem solving skills. And real world problems so that we pique student interest in math, similar to what we saw here this evening. I mean, nothing's more engaging than when it really makes sense to those kids. Opportunity for students to build stamina with multi-step problems. Again, number sense, both teams, it has to align with our grade level standards. They wanted, and we still feel strongly at the elementary, we need that paper pencil workbook yet. We are not ready to go to just an online digital book yet. We do link many things through Google Classroom, especially 4th and 5th grade. So we are preparing them for that leap into middle school, but we want the workbook. Parents want to see things coming home. It's just part of our communication system. And again, adaptable with many different levels, and you're going to see align the grade level text with the grade level just to avoid this confusion moving forward. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but just know that since December of 2022, we researched and then started to listen to many different presentations from our vendors. So we identified what we needed, what are we looking for, and then we narrowed our list to 5 different vendors and sat through different presentations, some face-to-face, some virtual. We had an extensive rubric that we completed as we listened. We then narrowed that down to some pilots. We completed 2 different pilots, mainly because we were not satisfied with what we thought was going to be our pick. A question came up about, well, how did we afford 2 pilots? The first pilot, we were buying workbooks for students no matter what. So those were kind of built into this year's costs. The second pilot was important enough, and we knew that many of those materials we received for that would be used in some shape or form. A lot of them were hands-on manipulatives that could be reused. So, and now that we are adopting our second pilot, those costs have been absorbed, and that brings our costs down for next year for what we'll be looking at.
I think the team should get a lot of credit as well. They didn't just go in and adopt the pilot and then force that through. The feedback was not working for us.
Yes.
Not what we'd like, and so they shifted to the other.
Yeah, we were really candid and we gave it our all, and it was like, this is not a good fit. So in a sense, money saved that we did not go all chips in on something until we test drove it. You'll see here, this information came to us a little bit later this year. Other districts were surveying, so I was able to lift this, and Bridges is the program that we are making our recommendation for this evening. And you can see there are quite a few districts that utilize that at the elementary level. Illustrative math was the other one that we did pilot this year. So that just kind of gives you a sense of what's happening out there. So the HMH math expressions, big ideas, math and you, illustrative math, Bridges and mathematics, and the McGraw-Hill. We did take another peek at McGraw-Hill, but did not see much of a shift as we did with some of these other programs to just be more engaging, more hands-on, more problem-solving based. So we started our first pilot that ran kind of September, November into December. We did a site visit to, again, Randall School District. We searched for districts that were a drivable distance so that we could get there, get back, still have discussion in the day. And at that point, we knew that we probably needed to start looking at a different tool. Bridges was our second runner-up, and we were very glad that we explored that. We had some conversations, interviewed staff, went and visited another site. administrative team took a trip over as we were wrapping up our decision making, so. This has been really valuable to network with other teachers that are further down the road. Key elements in the Bridges program, those are kind of those three interlocking pieces. It begins with a problem or investigation. In the lesson, that's more that guided instruction. The workplaces are those hands-on activities. It could be a game, it could be other problem solving. Typically, they're in a partner group or small group for that. Highly engaging activities. You know, our other program, IM, also had those activities. The kids did not respond the way they do here. The way kids are flourishing with this program, they're excited about math. Kids comment that math is a favorite part of the day now. They cannot get enough of it, and it's fabulous. We also are looking to add another 15 to 20 minutes into our schedule with a little shifting to provide an activity called Number Corners. And Number Corners actually front loads what's coming in the next month by putting down some foundational skills, and it's all based on calendar work, although it's very amped up because we've been, yes, do calendar with your kids. No, it's a waste of time. Don't do calendar with your kids. We're back in the camp of these are really structured activities. There's going to be a lot of surveying going on, analysis of data, very relatable things that the students are working on. It could build in fraction work. It might build in work with ratios, all front loading for skills that are coming then the following month. And our teachers, Lourdes can comment on that when we get over to our teacher, that she's actually launched with Number Corners this week, just to really test drive that last week actually. And it's been very well
Like
received.
Geneva has Number Corners.
I think they're transitioning out of math expressions into Bridges, and so they knew that was a missing component, so they already started with that. To be honest, some of the teachers in Randall using IM were also doing Number Corners, so we're like, okay, we've got to just really investigate this. What I did was I pulled our teachers completed another survey. Here are their words. This is our staff, what they're excited about, what they're seeing, what they either are seeing those who are piloting in their classroom, what they observed when we went to see this in action. I'll keep kind of changing this information, but what I'd like to do right now is just open it up to our teachers here utilizing the program or have seen it and just share their comments. So why don't we start, Amy, if you don't mind chiming in, because Amy's using it in first grade, Lourdes in third grade, Amy Demeter in fifth grade.
Well, my kids love math right now and they love the hands-on aspect of it. We're right now using numbers between 0 and 120, counting, and they're making nature paths with Unifix cubes, and so they're counting by tens, and they all get random, like today's lesson was random numbers of cubes, and then they had to make a nature path, and then we're talking about how it's easier to count when you count by tens, and then comparing them, which one's longer, by how many cubes longer is this one versus a different one. And that's kind of what we're working on right now. And then they call them decade numbers in Bridges, like 10s, 20s, 30s. And then Number Corner, they love Number Corner as well. Right now, the theme of our Number Corner is mailboxes, so the calendar pieces change every month. So last month it was looking at clocks and telling time, and then seeing how much time has passed between the previous day's clock to today's clock. And now it's mailboxes, so it's comparing two numbers and then solving equations. And then there's always a calendar collector too, sorry, where there's last month it was coins, where we would collect coins and then count them at the end of each week, and now we're doing craft sticks. So the kids are loving it. They're very hands-on and into it. And then there's always a computational fluency piece to it, or I can't remember. Sorry, there's another piece to it. I can't remember it offhand.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
When did you start test piloting the Bridges program? With this school year or?
I would say February was when we were able to get the materials in.
Okay, this February. Okay.
We had a training in February.
Okay.
for the teachers who were, all of our committee members attended, whether they were into piloting or not. I think we made some really integral calls there. Some with the IM materials saw good, we've monitored this with our math data, saw good progress. They didn't feel a shift was in the best interest of their particular kids. So, as I mentioned at our curriculum committee meeting, all of the standards are the same, whether students are within the pilot or not. They're all being taught the same math concepts, etc. We just, in some classes, the IM materials, especially the lower primary, were abysmal, and we needed to replace them. So it was either stepping back into my math or shifting to something. And the teachers were like, well, if we're going to do the work, they have these trailblazers here to help guide their teams next year is going to be really important.
Yeah.
You want to kind of give a third grade touch point?
Yeah, so I just have been doing number corners since April because I decided to start with a brand new month for a brand new calendar in third grade. And I'm actually doing the September number corner just because that way I can practice for September. And it starts with multiplication, even though they don't know it's multiplication. Well, my kids did because we already did multiplication with IM, but they won't know in September necessarily that it's multiplication. So there's a pattern with there's arrays and function tables and groups, groups of whatever. Today we started with number strands, which I think is a big part of that, where the starting problem was 25 plus 25. And then we talked about how you got that. And so some of the kids are like, well, I think of quarters. Well, some kids are like, well, I did 20 plus 20 and then 5 plus 5. So it's neat to hear all the different ways they're doing it. And then that leads to another problem. So the next problem was 25 plus 26. And what did they do for that? Or then we got to 25 plus 24. And then it went to 40 plus 40. And then they just keep relating it back to some sort of connection with numbers. There's also the calendar collector part with something with graphing that we're doing as well. So there's always a couple different math things that we're doing within that 15 to 20 minutes of time, which I really like.
And Amy?
And I'm piloting. I started maybe the end of February, and my biggest takeaway is the vocabulary that the kids can use to explain their math. It's not just rote memorization of the algorithm, the why behind it. You can come in my classroom and they can tell you about the 3 different kinds of fractions, and we don't call them improper fractions anymore. They're fractions greater than 1, and they can explain that to you. The lessons start with a problem string, and Stephanie and I made a visit to Whitewater, and they were explaining their problem string, and she and I looked at each other kind of because of the vocabulary the kids were using to explain their math.
The districts that we talked to indicated that, they've seen continued increase in testing, both on the forward and if they were a MAP district, that really solid results after implementation. And, again, we've had very, very solid MAP data information coming in that K2 level. There was just something in the 3-5 that really wasn't there. And on the forward assessment, there's lots of multi-step problems for these kids to tackle. And doing this daily and explaining their thinking daily will really, really help them in those challenging situations. Not that we want to pick a program to teach to one assessment in the state, but I feel like this will better prepare our students because their thinking will expand. And again, the engagement, one of the things we found with IM was our high flyers were really having to do a lot of the work in those groups and pull their little peers along. And then kids were shutting down because it was just hard and frustrating, and math used to be fun, and what was this? And that was more at the K3 level. I will say some of our 4th and 5th grade teachers really liked what was happening, and there was better dialogue with IM or Bridges than our previous program. But now we're able to reach all of those abilities in those math centers, those math workplaces throughout the lesson. So that's great.
And it does have a really nice component. Like in 5th grade, I can do that paper pencil, or I can push it out digitally. And I like that, having that option of both.
So one of the reasons that we didn't jump right into Bridges as our first choice is there is a lot of scuttlebutt out there, like, oh, Bridges is so much work your first year, like teachers buckle up, you know, and that's one of the downsides of Facebook is, you know, while they put good things out there as to how to live through your first year in Bridges, you know, it kind of is a little daunting. But our teachers finally pushed that aside and said, if this is the best for kids, this is what we want to do. And so one of the reasons it is a little daunting is it comes with a lot of pieces, like literal pieces, as you can see up there in the manipulatives, the components. And so during our site visits, we were like, show us how you're storing all this. Give us the tricks that you found, you know, like cut to the chase. So we're not going to chase our tails for a year. So with the remainder of budget money at each site, teachers, we had shared Google Docs as to what's the most sensible storage, so that storage will be here before all the products come in. Teachers will be comped sometime in that flex time in this August, not only for an 8-hour training, but for some unpacking and organization of all this, so they can feel very grounded before the students are in, and they will have some sense. And we have teacher leaders here who can say, hey, let me tell you how to organize this. Here's my tip, you know. For what it's worth, they've at least experienced that. And so each teacher is receiving 4 boxes, and they're pretty good size boxes. And you'll see here the training is included in those costs. In many cases, the other products we're looking at, we were going to be paying a lot of money for training, and this is face-to-face training. So that's wonderful. And we'll continue, they'll have an 8-hour kickoff training, but there'll be little stop points throughout the year for additional training as well. The overall cost of this implementation is, we will have just under 10,000 of remaining pilot costs coming forward into next year. The teacher additions and instructional kits is the bulk of it, but keep in mind, that's a one-time purchase. So once that's in-house, that is not reoccurring. The consumable student books, this is a really low price. With our former program, we were up to, I would say, $19 to $20 for those student books for the year. This is a fraction of that. Now, we're getting that for 50% off for the first year. We can find downloadables also online, but we have to weigh the printing costs and the headache here versus the book. But we can always revisit that. But that, even if that's doubled, that's a fraction of what I'm paying right now for math workbooks. We did set aside some money for additional manipulatives. Of course, they have an add-on kit, but when we looked at those things, we own a majority of those tools. But if we find that we need some things, ordering on Amazon with its free shipping will save us a lot of money. And professional development is included. So we're looking at sitting around $58,000. And that is built into our curriculum costs for next year. So we're not here asking for additional funds for this. It's all built into our rotating budget of adoption and what have you. So, and this is just the last survey I want to finish with. So we had 24 of our committee members respond to this final survey, and this is where we're at. This is our recommendation to you. That we go with the Bridges program. So, Adam, go ahead.
I gotta share with, I was on at the committee meeting, and in all my years of doing pilots and being around this, I've never seen a more overwhelming supported group of any pilot that's been done. I even had to ask, is there anything negative? Seriously, it was unbelievable support that everybody showed. And the only negative was the time.
The time. It's gonna take time, and that was one of the reasons why. I know of some districts that are writing in additional in-service days throughout the middle of the year for Act 20. To me, breaking up that training on top of our math adoption, because the state came out of left field here, and we're on our cycle.
Correct.
So there is a limit, particularly when a teacher teaches all subjects, of what they can literally handle. So we want to keep those in-service days for this math work. There's going to be a lot to do in just solidifying this and making sure that, you know, all grade 2s are moving at the same pace and it looks, you know, consistent across the district. So thank you for considering that with that calendar, because we will be in a good place with math before we then shift to that ELA focus. And that was very, very important. As a former teacher myself, that we just can't put too much on their plate at once. So
I just want to share that I really appreciate the time and effort, the due diligence they put into it. I know when Amy first approached me last year or last school year about it, hey, it's time we need to do the math adoption. It's probably the first time in my career where we've approached something where I've been a little nervous because we're very high achieving school district in mathematics. And I mean, Brian, what was Tibbetts mistake? Third on achievement?
It's very high, yeah. As far as where we fall school-wise, it was up there.
There's over 1,000 elementary schools to give you the frame of reference. So we're a very high achieving math piece. We know that there's areas that need to be addressed. I feel like those gaps have been closed or addressed in this, and that there's a plan, a pathway to still keep our high flyers at that high level, which was critically important because we are at such a high achieving level overall.
Amy, when will you reevaluate? You mentioned that the current materials, you kind of looked at year 5 and it was still going good. Is that kind of typical when we kind of relook at the current?
It is typical. So I would say, I will say what's different now is we used to really be locked into such a cycle, and both Sarah and I have kind of broken that paradigm, as most school districts have, in a sense that it's not a one and done. So we will have these resources in, and hopefully that this is going to go. We probably need to give it 2 or 3 years to really see. But at any point by the 3rd year, if something is abysmal, we wouldn't stick with that. We certainly wouldn't. And what's different with a math adoption, say, versus an ELA adoption, you saw the ticket price on this is very reasonable. An ELA adoption is probably at the elementary will probably run us about $400,000. So when you make the wrong choice there, you can see why you got to live with that for a while. So what I feel is it makes sense is we'll be doing that crosswalk and solidifying how our present materials and our practices meet the science of reading. It'll be important though, once math is to high ground, that we do reconvene our ELA committee, and that's the plan. But what'll be great is we'll get to see how these 4 curriculum are being handled out there in districts that have adopted. And it doesn't mean at that point we even have to use those. We can continue to do a crosswalk if we think there's a better tool out there. And to be frank, most of the districts in the state who were piloting or looking at ELA are not choosing any of those 4 materials. Like where those 4 came from was, again, out of nowhere. So the bottom line is that's kind of it. But if it isn't working, what I like is our teachers, I mean, they're kind of quiet right now. We have very open communication. And when they're like, this is not working, we will make a change because this is not good if it's not good for kids. I think we're really excited because what we're seeing right now is the kids are excited, the teachers are excited. And that's gonna, those seeds are planted, so other teachers are like, oh, this is gonna be good to get my hands on it.
Well, like Adam said, it was absolutely resounding, the excitement that you showed at the curriculum meeting about it and the engagement with the kids, absolutely.
I got a couple questions. Number one, you said that the 58,000 is already built into ours, so there's no additional cost that we're looking at this moment, correct?
Right.
Okay, what, outside of the fact that it's old and outdated, the McGraw, okay? Were there any other issues that would require us to move on from?
The fact that it's not published anymore was the big one.
Perfect.
Like we can't get our hands on those materials
Okay.
anymore. So, and we did not like the updated materials for that cost. There was nothing new in that.
Of course.
Considering what we saw with the other programs, but
Yeah, just
it's not a
there's not
publication.
like, the old school when we had a textbook, it's a workbook that they write in. So
Right.
they're not publishing it.
Right. So the last question I have for you is, I noticed that a lot of other schools at the middle school and the high school level, now this is not the elementary school, was a lot of them are using the illustrative mathematics. That was one that we had looked at, but we decided against.
It is.
Okay. Well, the question that I had for you is does this kind of, in general, usually if you start with a program in the elementary, it feeds its way into the other things because it just builds on one another. I'm assuming that Bridges works well enough with that, Because, or something, whatever we end up going with the higher levels?
One of the things is Bridges is only a 4K through 5th grade program. They don't have a middle school component, is my understanding. What's good is we'll be able to also bring our 4K program into our math program. Right now, they're using a program called Math Without Tears or something. So this is going to align our 4th grade instruction even more. And they'll be going through training in September, and through our 4K budget, we're ordering kits and getting ready to bring them on board as well. Our middle school is still leading with big ideas, as well as perhaps dabbling and pulling some resources from IM. IM is, in a sense, they say a nonprofit, and so there's a lot online that you can just get your hands on. I'm not sure what percentage is only big ideas versus IM, but they continued with a program that they had in place. They just went with the upgrade of the newer materials. We looked at a big ideas, but it was very workbook centered, not as engaging, and it was rolled out quite early. And this is before we knew what the middle school decision was. We tried to support that work by piloting IM. So we tried to make that connection right away. That was in the plus category for that. Again, it is not a fit for our school. The teachers, and they really tried. It does not work with the workshop model. There's too much teacher direct instruction, if not bailing kids out. It's just hard, and teachers were frustrated. I can't get with my groups. This is taking too long. I mean, it was just not a good fit. I want to turn it over. I want to recognize Stephanie Lockwood is here tonight, and Stephanie has taught at the middle school. She's now teaching 5th grade with us. While she has not piloted Bridges, I think maybe you could kind of talk to how you could see this connection.
I did pilot IM, and I would say going with Bridges is going to prepare them more for middle school, just based on, it's going to, help them with their number sense. That was like a big gap. Like when students would come to middle school, we would say, wow, like they're really struggling with number sense. Like they're not connecting it. And just the language and the conversation. Like, it would be like, it was really hard to get students to discuss collaboratively in groups that we were learning, and all the conversations would be very surface based. I think with Bridges, it deepens those conversations, it deepens their learning, and I think they will be going into middle school more well prepared. And Bridges and IM are similar-ish in that aspect of the conversation with the digging deeper. So if the teachers are using parts of that IM, I think us using Bridges is gonna lend really well to that. Like I said, I'll piggyback with what Amy said. I was really impressed in that 5th grade classroom. They were multiplying decimals and the sheer speed at which the kids came up with their answers. And I'm talking every single kid in the room. And her and I just kind of looked at each other like, whoa. And then they started explaining their answers, and there is like a turn and talk, and almost every single kid was able to justify their answer. And then the principal came in and I said, do you guys have it compacted? And he was like, no, they're all rolled in here, and we couldn't tell like who was who until the principal started pointing them out. And we didn't know. And so just the amount, and then she started the class by saying, all right, everyone draw a ratio table, and every kid took out their whiteboard and drew a ratio table. Like, that's just an example, like the language, if I told my 5th graders draw a ratio table right now, some of them would be like, what are we drawing? Whereas like everyone knew what to do. So I think just, it's going to make them better prepared, I think, for that big ideas curriculum and the parts of IM that they are using.
The last question I had for you, Amy, was this. Outside of the time that it's going to take to organize and get everything ready to go, especially that very first year where everything's going, are there any other drawbacks to going this direction versus IM? Do you understand? Like anything, any other drawbacks that you guys can see
For Bridges over IM?
Oh, yes, correct. Because that was the only one you did mention. I just wondering if there was something.
I feel that IM has to be rolled out because we have lived it, and it was not well received, and our students were not excelling in the manner in which we had to stop that pilot, at least at the grade 3 and lower.
And that's been completely stopped then, right?
Yes, at the lower level. 4th and 5th grade may have continued on because that was actually better than what we had been using, but yet the next lift will be Bridges. we do, either program, anything we adopt will take time the first year
Mhm.
to walk, period. That's why keeping that time with our in-service is important. I've also budgeted money for some release time for just those core teachers to then forge ahead, like we have one meeting each grade level. With substitutes in place already to start creating slideshows, start identifying which things need to be blown into posters where we can make that in-house. What are some other things that we need laid out? This is the book scope and sequence. Does that fit with what we want? How does this align with our report card? We may be updating some of those standards there. There's that Elkhornization of the program that is yet to come so that it really is the best fit for our students. So, and again, funds are already set in my budget for that release time throughout the year next year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Great questions, everybody.
All right,
Okay.
there's no other questions for Amy, then I need a motion to approve the curriculum.
Julie, before because I will move to approve it, I just wanted to say, like, I wasn't part of the curriculum council hearing and stuff, like, I mean,
Right.
just hearing about all of that stuff, like, my kids love math, and I'm super excited to see them going into something that they may even turn out to love even more. So with that being said, I move to approve the Bridges in mathematics as elementary math curriculum beginning in the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Bridges in mathematics as the elementary math curriculum beginning in the 2024-2025 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
Good work.
Thank you for all of your work on that.
This was the abbreviated version, the long form. Quite did included, I think it was an hour and 40 minutes on. The council meeting.
And then some.
Yeah.
It's like I ate twice during that presentation.
But it's the enthusiasm driving you around.
Yeah.
That's true. And Act 20.
Yeah, oh yeah. Act 20 makes everyone eat,
Oh, boy.
Have a mocktail.
Okay, moving on to the personnel recommendations.
Personnel sheet is there. I want to thank those that provided great service to us. Mr. Josh Scatterwood, want to congratulate him as he continues his career with the Whitefish Bay School District as an associate principal. Jessica Weber, thank you for her service, as well as William Demeter, who served us as the van driver. And then welcome the appointments and the transfer that we have.
I noticed on Mr. Scatwood's resignation letter, it said his last day was, I think, June 30th, and this says June 7th.
No. Their contract's over June 7th.
Got it.
But like administrative contracts typically start July 1, so he probably just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
But he will have fulfilled his contract with us June 7th.
got it. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Tadlock? Seeing none, looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the personnel recommendation sheet for April 8th, 2024, including new employment contracts conditioned upon passing the background check and the district mandated drug screening as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel recommendation sheet for April 8th, 2024, including new employment contracts conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you to all of those who are resigned for their service. School gifts.
We have one gift to present this evening. Country Mobile has donated $500 to Tibbetts Elementary to be used at the discretion of Mr. Fox.
Is this the mobile by Tibbetts? That's great.
They are, and called out of the blue. It was a program they run.
Really?
Nice.
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 That's great.
Okay, motion to approve the,
I move to accept the generous school gift as presented.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to accept the generous school gifts or gift as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Who's gonna oppose a gift?
That's all I did.
All right. Second reading of the new and revised policies.
Yeah, I did not receive any further feedback regarding the American flag policy. I believe that's
345.11.
No, that's the
Oh.
class rank and lottery system. I think we'll have to assign it a number.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that because it's a brand new policy. It does not
Correct.
have a number.
So we'll assign that as put in the book, but we did change the properly. That was in the last.
Yes,
as a
proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the lottery and class rank policy, we had the discussion at the last meeting where we decided to go with retaining those classes that were identified as being at the college level rigor. Which would require, the guidance officer for that department, we just have to put the structures in place to
Yep.
calculator time.
Yep.
Okay, but I didn't receive any other feedback. And changing Lottie point would be called Lottie score, which, again, the Lottie score or Lottie point currently is multiplying the total number of honor points, which are earned from college level rigor classes that have been identified with your GPA. And that determines their Lottie score.
Jason, do you mind if I add something really quick?
Go ahead.
We were able to get a hold of Skyward in between the last meetings. And Lena found out that there isn't a report that we would be able to run to track the courses, but it would need to be built into the course master. That would just take some man hours on the front end, but there would be no additional cost or fees that Skyward would charge for that. It would just be part of what we already pay for.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, thank you for following up on that, sir. Okay, so they're ready for final approval.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve the new
I
policies.
move to approve the new flag policy and revised policy 345.11 flag, the class rank and lottery system as presented.
Your second?
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded to approve the new flag policy and revised policy 345.11 class rank and lottery system as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And
10 months.
you got your phone.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, 2024-2025 CISA number 2 contract.
All right, once a year, the contracts come up and we reviewed these in regards to the services that we're using with CISA. We do have the mandated annual fee. And then aside from that, we actually use very little of CISA services, the bulk of which are primarily for that special education department and coordination there. And that's where you will see IEP based or based on need at this point. They don't have that need there, but if it goes into like, we're short staffed, we need a 0.2 or a 0.1, then we reach out and we can contract that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by not subscribing to it, it doesn't mean that we can't get the service, we can.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Assuming they can find someone. Rather than someone. that they-
Yeah, that's true.
So, but they generally, because there's a lot smaller districts than ourselves that they piecemeal or share employees.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 CISA number 2 contract as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2024-2025 CISA number 2 contract. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yep. Announcements.
All right, election canvassing is tomorrow, April 9th at 8 o'clock AM. Adam will serve as the deputy clerk.
That's
In
here,
place of Ed.
Yeah,
Correct,
in
that's
Ed's
here.
absence.
Yep. The wellness committee will meet on Adam's blowing a lot of straws on this one. On Monday, April 15th, 11 o'clock. You'll be the board representative. The personnel committee will meet at noon. Members are Julia, Heather, and Devin. And then the budget workshop, we have April 15th at 5 o'clock PM. This will be in the Dewey Room upstairs. The school board, new school board member gathering. So we have Kathy and Kyle. That will be Wednesday, April 17th from 7 to 9. And we host that. You'll have new school board members from all over this region that will come to that meeting from WASB, and they always do a great job. And that will be up here. Usually I attend that as well. I think Julia is going to attend, and then they'll free me up to go to we have the Southern Lakes Top 10 banquet. That same night. They used to be on Sundays, they moved me to Wednesdays, so now we conflict on it, but. All right.
Yeah, you'll be glad you went to it. I remember it even from 6 years ago. It was. There's a lot of really good information.
And I'm sure they don't mind if there's a board member that wants to brush up or wants to learn, you more than welcome to attend that as well.
Yeah, there's no registration isn't required for it. So.
And then wanted to check with the policy committee group, whether April 29th at 11 or May 6th at 11 would work for the next policy committee.
April 29th works for me. I don't know if it does for you.
I actually have my dad in town.
Oh.
And he's going to the airport.
Okay.
That morning, so.
All right, so
May 6th, like, sticking with it.
I would prefer May 6th as well, because
Okay.
my son might be in town.
May 6th works for me as well, so it doesn't matter.
All right.
Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So.
Somebody wants like a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. Thank you very everyone.